According to the United States federal government, Japanese is the hardest language in the world for English speakers to learn. But why is this? And is it actually true? The U.S. Department of State ranks the difficulty of languages so that they know how much time their diplomats will need to learn new languages before moving abroad and working in embassies in other countries. Japanese is ranked as the language that takes the most time to learn. Languages are divided into 4 major categories. The easiest category includes languages that are most similar to English. They usually take between 24 and 30 weeks of full-time study to reach mastery. That's about half a year. The ranking continues from there until you get to Category 4, the one that includes Japanese. The State Department's official website calls these super hard languages and claims that they usually take around 88 weeks of full-time learning to reach mastery. That's over 1 year and 8 months of just learning the language 40 hours a week. Or, if you study Japanese for 1 hour every day, it will take you 6 years to reach the State Department's recommended number of hours to reach proficiency. There are only 5 languages in this category: Arabic, Mandarin, Cantonese, Korean, and Japanese. So Japanese is ranked as one of the 5 hardest languages to learn for English speakers. But actually, it's even harder than those languages. If you look closely, you'll see that there's an asterisk next to Japanese. It tells us that Japanese is usually even more difficult than the other languages in this category. And that puts Japanese at the very top of the list of hardest languages to learn. So you're probably asking, why? And the answer is complicated. First, Japanese is really different than English. Remember those Category 1 languages? Those languages have something in common. They're all indigenous to regions close to England, the birthplace of the English language. Over thousands of years, speakers of these regions have been interacting with each other, exchanging words, grammatical structures, and writing systems. So, their languages are similar. If you speak English, you already know words in French and Dutch and Norwegian. But Japan is on the other side of the world. The first known contact between a Japanese speaker and an English speaker was around 1600, and larger amounts of contact didn't become prevalent until only a few hundred years ago. So, Japanese and English haven't historically influenced each other very much. They're not from the same language family, they have very different grammar, and the vast majority of words they use are completely different. Another huge reason that Japanese is so hard for English speakers is the writing system. Or, more accurately, the writing systems. Because there's not just one, there are 4. And you have to know at least 3 of those in order to become proficient in Japanese. In fact, Japanese is really the only language in the world that interchanges 3 different writing systems like this. For a language learner, this presents a unique and difficult challenge, especially because none of those 3 main systems are actually alphabets with vowels and consonants like in English. Hiragana is usually used to represent words that are originally of Japanese origin and grammatical words. It's a syllabary, which means each character represents 1 syllable, instead of having a letter represent a single sound, like in English. And katakana is usually used for words of foreign origin. It's also a syllabary, but with different symbols. Kanji is written with Chinese characters, and a fluent Japanese speaker needs to memorize over 2,000 kanji. And finally, romaji, which is not commonly used by Japanese speakers but is still helpful to know, is the use of the Latin alphabet, which is the one English uses, to write Japanese and international words. And one more thing, Japanese speakers need to be able to read both the traditional, vertically written Japanese and the now common horizontal Japanese. English speakers generally won't have done this before. Now, you may have noticed there was no mention of pronunciation in this. That's because the challenges of pronunciation aren't usually a major reason why Japanese is difficult. It's not a tonal language like Chinese, Vietnamese, or Thai, and most sounds in the language also exist in English. Of course, there will always be certain challenges when learning the pronunciation of a new language, but for Japanese, it's not usually a major hurdle. So, Japanese is really hard. The times given by the State Department are for U.S. diplomats. These are people who have probably already studied other languages and who are able to learn a language full time while being paid to do it. If you're a regular person who can't drop everything and study Japanese full time for a year and a half, it will probably take you a really long time to learn Japanese. So if you've been struggling with learning Japanese, give yourself a break. Language learning takes time, and you've chosen the hardest one of them all.